our blubber buns.
Small Wonder at 4:15. And at 4:45, Results Service, a comprehensive roundup of the afternoon's sporting events. Programmes for Saturday afternoon on ITV, the one to watch.
This is Anglia. Now the latest news from ITN. The time is 12 o'clock.
Thousands of anti-nuclear protesters have gathered in London for CND's biggest demonstration since American cruise missiles were stationed at Greenham Common 2 years ago. They're calling for Britain to lead the world in nuclear disarmament, and they're taking their message directly to the American and Soviet embassies.
A rather eccentric programme, including a mass die-in, will mark CND's first major rally through central London since 1983. The theme of the march is human race or nuclear race. Among the thousands on the rally are survivors of the atom bombs dropped on Japan, as well as veterans of British Army campaigns. The march moved off about 40 minutes ago and will pass as near as the police will allow it to both the Soviet embassy and the American embassy, before ending late this afternoon with a rally and speeches in Hyde Park. John Suchet, ITN, in central London.
Relief agencies in Ethiopia say thousands of refugees have fled from the main famine camp at Botham. The camp's been feeding up to 20,000 people with emergency aid since last year. One report said today all but 6,000 of the refugees had now left. They've apparently fled into the mountains to avoid being forcibly resettled by the government. The British-based Save the Children Fund says half the 1,400 children enrolled in its feeding programme have gone. The United Nations has sent officials to the camp to investigate. South African police have killed 2 more blacks in overnight rioting and arrested 66 anti-apartheid protesters in the Cape Town area. They've also banned reporters from the black township of Soweto near Johannesburg. 29 of the arrests were made there when a large mob gathered. The Old Bailey jury in the Cyprus secrets trial is again considering its verdict on the 2 servicemen they've still to deal with. It's the 6th day they've been out. RAF men Geoffrey Jones and Christopher Payne are both charged with passing secrets to the Russians. 5 others have already been acquitted in Britain's longest and most expensive spy trial. The Curl Board has denied Mr Scargill's claim that it's made a pay offer to the NUM, though he's standing firm by what he says. And leaders of the breakaway union of democratic mine workers in Nottinghamshire, who have had a pay offer of around 4% plus incentives, say they're not split over it, they just haven't decided yet. A Royal Air Force sergeant has died and 6 other servicemen are injured after an army helicopter crashed at Fork Hill in South Armagh. The helicopter hit a radio mast 100 feet up shortly after takeoff. And finally, Ian Botham has taken on a task that he says will be even harder than beating the Aussies, walking from John O'Groats to Land's End. His stops on the 960-mile trek will include Inverness, Manchester and Bristol to raise money for leukemia research.
As the new day was piked in on Britain's most northerly outpost, Ian Botham was busy limbering up for what's seen as the biggest test of his already legendary sporting life. The next time he goes down to the sea, it should be at Land's End. John O'Groats had certainly never seen a road show like it. Botham's long march for leukemia had turned this lonely Scottish hamlet into a charity circus. A good luck hug from his wife Kath, a few snaps by the world-famous signpost, and he was off to the skirl of Scotland the Brave. Though perhaps the tune should have been You'll Never Walk Alone, as he was joined by personalities like John Conti, a fluster of pressmen, and a backup team that even includes a chiropodist. But everybody had faith that those famous feet would make it, particularly son Liam.
Well, I'm very proud of them.
Is he going to do it, though?
I think so, yes.
Though there were few onlookers today, Botham has given up a month of his life to try and reach the conscience of the nation.
There's 65 million, 67 million people in this country. We're doing this over 31 days. I do not see any reason why we can't do something together and all plump in, and just a few pence. That's all it needs.
And the target for you?
Me, I'd like 1 million. Thank you, Frank. Cheers.
Ahead of him lie 960 daunting miles, all in a good cause. Jeremy Thompson, ITN at John O'Groats.
And that's the news so far from ITN. We're back at 5 o'clock when I hope very much you'll be able to join us again.
He was the terror of Termite Valley.
This Monday at 6:30,
A terrible terror was he.
Movie Memories.
That new series is exactly the mixture as before, and it's the mixture you say you like best. Requests, queries, special guests, and your memories of going to the pictures.
Now, Starlight, do you think it's nice for that big tramp to break up our show? What?
Roy Hutt returns with Movie Memories this Monday at 6:30 on Anglia.
We have a movie premiere tonight at 10 o'clock, Richard Gere in American Gigolo. Quite a different thing. Now we start off this afternoon's sports coverage with St. and Greavesy.
Good afternoon and welcome from Jimmy and I to a show which I promise you offers not only some smashing action, but great personalities too. We look back on Europe and see St Mirren involved in a 6-goal thriller in Sweden. We ask, can the Pat Nevin-Kerry Dixon combination finally end Manchester United's great unbeaten run at Stamford Bridge this afternoon? Is little Gary Plain the bravest footballer in Britain? We have a special report as he meets his greatest hero. And we take a look at the fireman who could be on his way to a European boxing title. And Greavesy, you'll enjoy this. We're joined by a man who you've given a bit of stick to over the years, Alan Rough, as he looks forward to a shock Hibs win over Aberdeen in the Skol League Cup final.
I'll tell you what, you say I've given him a bit of stick. You said he should have retired earlier on in the season. No, was it 10 years ago? Bring back Frank Haffey, you said.
I bring back Frank Haffey. I was responsible for getting Frank Haffey sent to Australia.
I know. But, anyway, Ruffy has got a few words to say, has he?
Yes, you'll be on later. Okay. Some news of a game played this morning. It's just after half-time. Top of the Division 4, Colchester 0, Northampton 1, so a bit of a shock there.
At the moment.
All right. But now for Europe, and a good night for Aberdeen in Geneva. The Dons managed their first leg 1-0 draw against Servette in the European Cup, and should in fact have won the match.